the camera and see if we can get up to
Funky
speed
lag
here.
thing. Funky lag thing. And look, and of course, special guest, Teddy.
Yes. Oh my God. That's how. What's his name?
Teddy. It's a
I have
she.
a son
T-E-D-I, as in teddy bear.
Oh, I have a
It's got
teddy
a little
bear.
teddy bear face.
There we go. There we go.
Loves being on the pod. Ted, sit down. So, special guest. That's it.
Special guest. We have a
All right,
new
so
special
audio's
guest.
all good. We're in good shape.
I think the dog adds a few viewers. You know, you add a pop in, you get a couple more viewers.
I'm telling the pop in with the puppy. That's a post right there.
If you're lagging on views, just like add a dog.
I tell you, the funny thing is, anytime I add Teddy to my post, they crush.
Yeah.
Two things. I either add Teddy or my wife. They crush. Nobody wants to see me, by the way.
No, I do, but nobody else. It's
I
just,
appreciate that.
it's just I'm the only one who's into you at that level. So, but it's good that people adore your dog and adore your wife, and eventually, by proxy, they're just going to start to adore you, which is, you know,
Good point.
it's a way to do it. Just trying to get stack those little yeses up. You know what I mean? You want to get the, yes, he's got a beautiful wife. Yes, he's got a beautiful dog. Yes, he's got a beautiful life. I guess, yes, I love Steve. There you go.
It's awesome. All right, so we have people here a couple minutes early. Let's get rolling. So
Let's roll.
welcome to, Rob, this is episode 11 of the Vibes and Ventures podcast. My name is Steve Walsh. I'm also known as the Hands-On Angel. This is my good buddy, Rob Hughes, also known as the Startup Alchemist. How are we doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. A little problems with the computers, as always. The struggles have now gone from just Fridays to Mondays and Fridays. So we're cracking on despite a lot of frustration with technology. So that's normal for a Monday. I feel pretty good about it though.
You are a tech savvy boy, but they are a little bit of a challenge for you. I would argue, right?
Yes, I would say so. I think I think I'll get to the other side of it, but I'm in one of those periods where I'm in a consistent battle with the technology stack I'm using. So here we go. This isn't a problem. This one's going great. Entra's wonderful, and and Michael makes it very easy for us to do this. So let's kick off. What do you want to lead the pod today and go with number one, the thing that your thing number one?
I can. I will fire off with my number one. This comes off of a conversation you and I had over the weekend, which we usually catch up at some point over the weekend. And there's no visual to go with this, but it's something we talked about a lot, which is don't be transactional in your relationships. And what that means, whether you're a founder, a funder, or anybody, when you're transactional, it's all about the work, the deal, and checking the box. You don't go deep. And the relationships for me that really work in my life, and you're a great example of that, are relationships that are not transactional. They're built on trust. They're built on humility. They're built on candor. I would call it kind candor. And most of all, they're built on authenticity. Mm-hmm. And I had a couple conversations last week that just felt very transactional. They were like, well, I mean, literally, I had a potential partner be like, okay, so what's the deal? What's your deal? And I'm like, okay, like we've known each other 11 and a half minutes. Like it just doesn't relationships don't work like that. So I think when you're transaction and to your point, Rob, you made a great comment to me when we were talking about this. You said when you're transactional, you could get stuff done. In fact, you can get a lot of stuff done, but you have to do incredible volume because the relationships aren't tight. So people aren't going to think of you in the first principle, and you're going to have to actually do more work and more deals to get alpha because you don't have that deep relationship. But I'd love your comments.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, not to name names, but you're having a conversation with somebody that you could partner with for a pretty long time, and you kind of serve similar audiences, and for there to be zero recognition of like, hey, let's do a little relationship building here. Let's find our commonalities. Let's find the core values that we both ascribe to, and sort of figure out where, or like if there's a good enough foundation to collaborate with longer term, and instead to be like go right after the thing. It's just so interesting. It would be it really undermines the ability to grow something great. I'm trying to think of an analogy that would, without being crass, about just going straight for the thing and bypassing something way better. But I think we could fill in the blanks there and fill in the lines. But you're trying to build a relationship, not trying to get one thing done. you're trying to figure out like, how can we collaborate together? How can we add value to each other's businesses and lives over the next several years? Not like, well, let's get our first deal in the pipe and like go from there. And
Well,
so I
because you
think
know
that,
something, Rob,
yeah,
the first deal is never the best deal, and it's never the
no.
biggest.
No, it's always like the tester deal. You're like, well, let me see if this will work. And
That's it.
I really find, about, talking to you, we were just like having a giggle about it. It's just this sort of nature of some folks to just go for the thing and to sort of like almost front a lot in the conversation instead of just being a human. Like, here's what I do, here's what I can offer, here's who my core clients look like, here's the type of people I'm spending my time with, and how can that work with what you're doing? If not, no big deal. Instead of like trying to posture as you like as if you figured out everything and you have like almost trying to legitimize yourself on a call. It's like such a strange move. Like I'm just struck by how strange it was. Like, what are you doing?
It's awesome, dude. What are you doing?
What are you doing? Like,
Don't do that. Do not
and
do that.
why what are you doing, and why are you
The
doing
first inclination sometimes for people is like they get on a new relationship call and it's to flex, and I'm
it?
like,
Yes,
what you want to do is the opposite. Your inclination is, let me tell them how great I am and show them. How about just be a real person, have some humility, and find common ground. And if the relationship is genuine and if there's business to be had, it'll just happen.
absolutely. I almost feel like it's like imposter syndrome that gained too much footing and is now physically manifesting itself in the way that you're interacting with people. It's such a strange concept, but it's like, I get it. You're feeling a little insecure in this moment, but like we all do. Just relax and be yourself and trust that your track record and your competency will shine through. And just very strange approach to doing business. I think is like, oh, let's just go right for the thing. It's like maybe that works, but
Not
you
with
need
me, it
to
doesn't.
not especially, and I said this on our calls, like especially not with like centers of influence, people that are going to be sharing deals for a long period of time. The thing isn't as important as as how it feels, because there's always lots of options in almost every business is commoditized now, and it's like you could get that anywhere. You're ultimately going to do business with the people you like the most, and so once you've figured out that yes, you can provide the service that we've jumped on to talk about, from there it's sort of like, how much of this time can we spend building a relationship? How much of this time can we find out enough about each other to have a lot of confidence in sending over those referrals to each other, and beginning what could be a really beautiful partnership? It just really blew me away. And I was, we were
And you
giggling
and
to
I
each
have a
other.
call coming up later today with a
Yes,
potential partner
yes.
that we've done business with now. This is a second time we've done business with them. And this call today is going to determine pretty quickly, Rob, are they a partner or are they a vendor? And there's a big difference. Are they transactional or are they really looking for a relationship? And how they react to our scenario we're going to present will really be telling for me.
I'm stealing myself for that conversation, because I think it's going to be an interesting one, and I think there's enough at stake there to treat it with the weight and gravity it deserves. So I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll have a good outcome, but who knows in this wild
Who
world?
knows,
Who
man?
knows?
Who knows? You never know. All right. So what's your first thing for today?
I've been the first thing to say, and I have no visuals for today. I could pull up visuals, but I feel like they're not getting
I
to the
have some
point.
visuals for my last thing. So
Oh,
they're from an event we did last week. So you'll like it.
oh, fantastic. So the first thing I want to talk about is vibe coding and this trend of vibe coding. And there's lots of different things that people are like ascribing to vibe coding, but I think what the overarching theme is, and this sort of there's people are just starting to hear about it and talk about it and witness it, but it's the idea of you leveraging multiple platforms to build software, and maybe like I'm almost leaning towards calling it prompt coding. So this idea of to coding, but not through writing line by line, but by giving prompts to LLMs and
Sure.
I always get the thing wrong, small language models, SLMs, and then having some AI agents working on the back end and getting the errors and retesting it, and really trying to get your ideas out into the world in a way that can manifest into a physical website or application or a SaaS platform. And what we're seeing, what I'm seeing, and I bookmark almost all my bookmarks now are either inspirational speeches or examples of people giving walkthroughs on how they built stuff, how they built things. It's
Sure.
all this, it's part of this wave of vibe coding, and people just putting out online that what they built and how they built it so others can follow. This is I think is going to be a trend line that like could shake up the capital needs of companies, especially at the idea state, to launch their idea into the world and to start to acquire customer and name brand recognition and revenue, and gain momentum ultimately, without having to spend a ton of time and money building something that is now what would have taken months and months before, is now taking hours or days. It's
Sure.
an incredible trend, and
And
I
it's not
encourage.
just, Rob, it's
Yeah.
not just the capital, it's the number of people they're going to need,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. I
It's,
include that in
it's
capital. Yeah.
instead of teams of 10, you could do this with one or two people with an idea. Instead of giving it to a dev agency that will come back to you with an MVP, you can get to MVP without spending hardly any money, hundreds of dollars instead of thousands.
I saw a guy recreate Twitter X, sorry, in like 15 minutes, and he showed like step by step how he did it, how he went through the errors and got those fixed, and showed like he got the whole thing up and running, functioning enough to at least be an MVP within 15 minutes. And you go like, man, that's pretty incredible. So. And there's other examples all online where people are posting the things they're creating, leveraging different tools. I think it's just the beginning of the end for dev shops. I think it's the beginning of the end for, let's call it technical co-founders that really aren't CTO quality. They're demanding, that sort of equity share of a company to get like just a raw product built. And I think we're going to see a little bit of and more of an emphasis on other parts of the business as getting at least that initial push off in a digital platform is a lot more easy to do and streamlined, cost
So let
efficient.
me give you an example, because I'm doing this every day with my own business because I don't have a huge team. It's me, a couple of interns. So I'll share my screen just to give folks an idea of what we're talking about here. And this is a very rudimentary version of it, but you'll get the idea. So you can see my screen, right, Rob?
Yeah.
So I wrote this LinkedIn post, which was about startup culture, myth versus reality, and put some prompts about what you learn in the classroom, etc. Well, it resonated with this group that is a bunch of female entrepreneurs from some of the biggest universities in the world, Harvard, Stanford, etc. I'm doing a talk tonight about this post, which now has turned us into this discussion. So instead of reinventing the wheel, I took the post, I threw it into ChatGPT, and I said, take this overview and give me slides for a PowerPoint I'm doing. And it basically came back now and said, here's the slides, here's the layout, here's what you should talk about. It doesn't do it for me. I'm now going to take this and build more of my slides of what I do. But what it really did, Rob, is it took something I had already created, broke it down into the elements, gave me the slides. Now I just have to put visuals in Canva to it. Like in my prior life, that would have taken hours. I'll have the
Yeah.
entire thing done in 15 minutes.
And then there are ways to deploy AI agents to actually build the slide deck for you and get it done.
Correct.
And so like that's just like step one. It's like ideating, you leveraging a thought partner, or let's call it, like in this situation, it's more like someone to help you organize your thoughts. I don't know if that's a thought partner. And then from there, you could just send another, or you could use an AI agent to build out that deck, leveraging what you've already built. I think it's like, look, if we're on top of this, clip this out. If we're all on top of this, as we should be, we who are leveraging AI tools, even in the most rudimentary ways, have a crazy advantage over people who aren't tinkering with them yet. And look at how these platforms are competing for us. I mean, you're seeing like DeepSeek and Grok, and you see and ChatGPT. All these platforms are competing for the same audience, especially initially. And so they're bringing features forward consistently that make them better and better. So I think ride the wave, catch the wave, learn how to like build on your skill sets, so you don't become useless in the next wave of innovation and people working instead of just being automated.
I love it. Okay,
Yeah.
so that was good number one. My number
Yeah.
two, I will show this. The number two is called Bad Weather Makes You Enjoy Sunny Days More. And yesterday was a really cool day. Went to my wife's birthday's today, so Kimmy's birthday's today.
Happy birthday, Kim.
Thanks, man. Took her out yesterday for a little Sunday fun day. We like to go out, do a little shopping. Went to Davio's, got a little lunch, a couple cocktails, just nice little Sunday fun day. And it was gorgeous yesterday. It was 45 degrees and sunny. And I'll share just this with everybody, just to give you an idea. This is a picture of the
Oh,
sunsets in
wow.
my house. And this is taken in the summertime, but the sunsets where I live are absolutely magical. My favorite thing about living here is actually the sunsets. And I share that because what yesterday made me think about was that we live in a place in the Northeast, both of us, that, there's a lot of hard winters and a lot of days when you and I are morning gym people, we talk a lot in the morning. You go into the gym and it's said last week, it was 17 degrees, ice everywhere.
Yeah.
It's dark, it's cold. And what it reminded me of is those are the days that happen like yesterday when you get that little glimpse of spring, that beautiful sunny day, late winter, maybe early spring, where you're like, it'll be Memorial Day before we know it. I'll be on the boat. We'll be with these great sunsets. And I think part of the advantage of living in the Northeast is that the bad weather that we have makes us appreciate the sunny days more. And I was thinking about the founders that you and I work with every day.
Yeah.
And they have to go through, especially when they're launching, just so many hard times to get to that first MVP, to get to that first paying customer. But I would argue it's living through all of that that makes the fruits of their labor even better when they get to the other side. So bad weather leads
Yeah.
to sunny days. And I just thought of that today. So I figured I'd talk about it.
Yeah, I tweeted out last week, one of my founder friends that I've known for almost a decade. I met him when he was in school and had launched his first company. And he called me up last week and they'd landed this amazing like A++ logo for a client for their company. And all of a sudden, after a decade of watching him, and this is the second company I've been affiliated with him through, third actually, he's finally like had this breakthrough moment. And I was not in tears, but pretty close, I would say, because I could just feel how I could almost feel all the like nights and nights and nights that this guy had been working away, trying to break through, trying to
Sure.
just crack it, just trying to figure out how do I do this? How do I get past how do I stop surviving and start thriving? And he had done it in such a remarkable way that I was just so happy for him. And to your point, like the great days of weather, they don't mean as much if you always have great weather. And I don't think
Yep.
like him signing that A++ logo onto his and becoming a paying a customer, a significant one, would have meant as much if he hadn't struggled for almost a decade.
Sure.
I could see it
And
in
the
his
struggle's
eyes.
real, right? He lived it. You lived
Yeah.
it with him.
Well, I've lived it tertiarily. Like we've always stayed in contact, and I've always been cheering for him. But to see him break through, I could see it in his eyes. I could feel it through the screen. Like he was just like had just had this moment where the sun was shining on his face finally after all this effort. And I was so happy for him. Like, oh my gosh! And and then he was very wise in saying like, hey, well, I need to figure out how to systemize this so I'm able to
Sure.
land contracts like this more often. And now that we have like this really great client in the book and in long-term contract and all this, like we should be thinking about who should we bring on to like start building out systems to replicate this. And I thought, man, not only did this guy struggle for a decade, but when the moment came and he got a break, he wasn't like sitting on it and being like, well,
I made it.
this is it. Exactly. It's like, well, how do I do that again and do it again and do it again and do it again?
Sure.
How do I make this like, how do I, get this to become repeatable, scalable? And I'm just so happy for him. And yes, the sun was shining on him. I always tell founders when the sun's shining on you, just stop for a second and appreciate it because you never know when it's coming around again. And some of them listen. I hope he did. And to your point, the summer feels good. The sun feels so much better when you've been freezing and you've been in the dark for a long time. So yeah, the contrast.
So two
is
things.
great.
One, did you do words with friends this morning? Because tertiary, that's a fucking awesome word. That's
I did
fantastic.
not do words with friends.
He is not just a good-looking guy, folks. The boy is smart. Tertiary, that's an awesome word. And the other one is you literally stop surviving, start thriving. Great, it's a great point
Yes.
right there.
That's a great post. You could take it. You could take it.
It's a great post right there. We come live on Entre. So what's your number two?
I've been talking about this one a lot, and I don't want it to get off the rails, so I'll try to be careful here. But there's a lot going on, as we all know, in this new administration, and there's a lot of change that's happening. And whether you like it or love it or hate it or loathe it, you fill in the adjective. one thing that I think everyone's pretty convinced about is that it's very disruptive. And
That's fair.
I can't help but thinking that the best time for startups, especially at the earliest stages, the best time for innovation are in disruptive periods of time. When
Right.
when things are status quo and things are going to plan, it is always in favor of the incumbents. And but when things
Mhm.
are being like sort of uh, the deck's getting shuffled, things are getting rearranged, priorities are getting restacked. I find that that's the best time for innovators to innovate because that's what they do is they make adjustments and they're much more agile and much more lightweight and can change things very quickly on the go, and are able to basically augment their strategy and their execution to align with the what the new environment is. Whereas incumbents are sort of like stuck, and it takes a while to unstick them. It takes a while to convince them that things have changed or are changing. And so I think that regardless of how we feel about what's going on in Washington, the bigger picture, if you just zoom out, is like this is highly disruptive. And
Yeah.
if you're a startup company or a VC fund that's funding those startup companies, you should be pretty excited about what's going on. Just from the standpoint of like opportunity is going to be popping up everywhere. There are going to be new opportunities for companies to get launched in verticals that have been overlooked. And I mean, I for the first time last week, clip this. I was long on ed tech, and I no other reason
And
except
nobody cares about ed tech ever.
nobody cares about ed tech. I've been taking them to task for years, saying there's no way this is ever going to become a large enough vertical for a lot of winners to make it because it's
Yep.
just the bureaucracy involved. And now for the first time, like maybe that might change. Like
Maybe.
that might change, and if it does, like there's going to be a bunch of ed tech companies that have been battle tested that are ready to go. What? So I think not stock advice, but I think disruption equals opportunity, and also can be a mind changer apparently because I've never been long on ed tech and I am super long on it right now.
Change creates opportunity, man. It just
Yeah, man.
does. And it's going to happen at a pace that is faster than we've ever seen it. And those that are ready and embrace change, run towards it, and just go faster are going to win the day. And the ones that are afraid, I mean, AI, whether it's ChatGPT, Gronk, or whatever, are great examples of it. I can't tell you how many conversations I have with friends that want to convince me that it's the enemy. We should be careful. We don't want to go too fast, and be careful. This is going to take your job. I'm like, I'm on the opposite end of that. I was an early adapter of ChatGPT. I was in the beta before it was ever commercially launched because I live in a world where change creates opportunity and you have to lean into it. You just do. The
Absolutely.
way to find alpha is not to say it doesn't exist and run to the corner. It's to say it exists. It's going to be part of my life. How can I get leverage by being an early adopter and apply it to what I'm doing, whether that's banking, investing, whatever.
Change is scary, but it's also necessary. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, we can be a little scared about like what's coming or what's
Of
around the
course.
corner from the technology standpoint, from a policy standpoint. But ultimately, like, you got to control what you can control. And in this
Yeah.
environment, I think if you're starting a company, man, I think it's you have a lot more um, opportunities to thrive in this in the next couple of years than you would have otherwise.
Totally agree. So
Yeah.
my third one is this comes from the event that you were nice enough to host last week for me and a bunch of our
Still
tequila
recovering.
brethren.
I'm still
Still
recovering.
recovering.
Still
And I'm going
recovering.
to title this one, Take the Time to Show Up. So last week's event for me was a reminder that in real life events continue to matter for founders and funders. And I'll share my
Yes.
screen here just to give everybody a little sneak peek. This was an event that Rob hosted last week. This is our friend in the middle, Jorge, who is a great friend and fellow tequila lover, at our event that we held in the financial district with some just awesome people. This is Steve Bernard in the gray sweatshirt, our friend from Techstars, our friend Locke, speaking of EdTech, and EdTech founder in the middle with the black shirt, and the gentleman with his tongue out, our boy Jake from Ahoy, which is a startup that went through Techstars where I'm a mentor in residence. And Jake is an absolute miracle. There's a movie being made about his life, about how he was in a coma for almost a year and
It's got a
now has
great
come back.
podcast.
He actually has a podcast about it. calls, is it Eyes Wide Open?
I think so.
And he's just an awesome person. And Rob brought us all together last week to sip tequila, talk about startup.
Pull that last image back up for me.
Sure. Hold on. Hold, please. This one?
Yeah, because I want to talk about the other two.
Go ahead.
So Steve Domit, I think is his last name. He's
Correct.
to the right. Yeah, to the right of Locks. I got introduced to him either from Steve Bernard or somebody like that, and he's new to Boston, breaking into the VC space. We had a great coffee, and I gave him some advice, and he like one couple of things that stood out. Remember we were talking about the relationships versus transactions. First of all, like he followed the advice, like and he actually reminded me of the advice because I wasn't sure what I told him. I'm sure it was well intentioned, and I meant every word of it, but I don't always remember what I tell people. It's always the truth in the moment. And so he told me that he was doing it and it was working. It was opening up doors for him. I'm not going to share all the secrets on the pod here, but it was actually really good. But I remember he sent me like a wonderfully handwritten note and a small gift of some coffees to my office. And I was like, man, that guy stood out in all the right ways just from that one interaction. And the guy to his right is Robert Harrington, who is a VC investing into MIT companies. And like, I mean, I'm smiling looking at this image because like, what a group that we got to spend our evening with that night. That was just an incredible, incredible group.
It was absolutely sick.
Really,
and and the other gentleman from VU that Steve introduced me to as well. We were talking tequila, and we were talking about the tequila nights, and he's like, "How do I get an invite to tequila night?" I'm like, "You either just have to know Rob and I, and we have to make sure you're not an asshole." And that's it. Like, you have to like tequila and like people and not be a jerk, and that's it. And he's like, hey, aren't you doing a tequila deal with Steve Bernard? I said, oh, yeah, the former founder of Clase Azul, starting a company. I'm helping him raise money. And just off, he's like, can I see the deck? I go, sure. So I sent it to him, not thinking anything. And then, like, my friend Matt Wilson that's doing the deal with me pings me. He's like, hey, do you know this guy? I go, yeah. He goes, he just came in the deal. I go, seriously? He invested?
That's awesome.
He goes, yeah. We had like a 15-minute conversation. He's like, yeah, man, that sounds great. So and a lot of this, one comes from choosing good people and good friends like Steve Bernard, who introduced the two of us to him. So I met Will through you because you've done some stuff with them, and it was just an awesome time. And it just reminded me more than ever, Rob, that in real life events matter. And from that event, and there wasn't a huge number of people, maybe 20 people.
I've
already set 2 meetings, including the venture fund dude from Northeastern, from BU. He and I are meeting this week.
Yusuf.
And one of the founders from the event
he just got into Y Combinator. Yusuf just got into Y Combinator. Like this guy.
So I'm meeting with Yusuf tomorrow.
He's
and
awesome.
One of the founders, Jesse and Ella, that came to your event, are coming to South by, and they're going to pitch at our elevator pitch event. All Incredible. That came out of this one event last week. So thank you for pushing the envelope and making us all realize that in real life events still matter in this day and age of this type of podcast and digital. In real life matters, and relationships get forged at them.
Yeah, I mean, we could just pull on this thread all day of relationships, but like even the location was just, we had another location picked out, and they came back and were like, we can't do it. And so I had to go through my Rolodex. And for all of you youngins out there, Rolodex is where you keep your contact names, and hit up my buddy Steele, who owns the Steele Group. And he was gracious enough to let us in to their space. And a couple of their team members were there, which are all awesome people. And again, these things are like it takes a village to put these special nights together. So if you get, as a founder, if you get invited to one of these small to medium-sized events, just know like, you're the magic that makes the room come together, but people behind the scenes are putting in a lot of effort to make these moments come together. And especially when you're picking out every single person that's going there, you're trying to create an environment where great things can happen and being intentional about that. And so like, if you get that invite, I mean, we had a bad weather night. Like, come on, everything I'm doing, every night I'm doing an event now, it's got bad weather. But the attendee rate's been pretty high. I got an event tomorrow night. I think we're gonna have okay weather, so that means nobody's gonna show up. But I'm just kidding. It's gonna be great. But if you think about it, it's like people are putting effort into it, and if you have the right organizers behind it, show up. Because they're bringing all the right people into the room that have that can lead to wonderful things coming out of it that you can't anticipate. You can't anticipate.
And hey, at worst case, you came out of it with Hands on Angel swag, which you've been asking me about for a while.
Great cup. Wonderful
Not bad.
tequila sipping glass. I'm so honored that you got me an engraved glass. It's my favorite glass. And yes, I wasn't moved to tears like Jorge, but I was very appreciative. Um, and I also
Dude, how
learned
about
something.
this? Have you seen this move? The branded
No,
AirPod?
shut up.
Come on. I'm
I
everywhere.
love it.
I'm
You're
absolutely everywhere.
you are everywhere, and that's not too much. There's no such thing as too much of a good thing when it comes to you.
It's
All right,
awesome.
we
What's your
ready?
number three?
Number three, Elon tweeted this out this morning or late last night, and it just kind of like stuck in the crook of my brain, and I couldn't get it out of my brain. He said event horizon for we can see the event horizon of the singularity. And so if people aren't aware of what the singularity is, it's the moment when artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence, and not just in one section or one sort of vertical or one display or depth of knowledge or trained model or what have you. It's across the board, just overall. If you were comparing A to B, A being a human, B being a computer intelligence, B would be significant, at least a little bit smarter than A. And he's saying like, hey, that the event horizon, we can see that it's within our line of sight now. I highly encourage anybody who's not aware of what the implications of that are to pick up Ray Kurzweil's The Singularity is Near. It's a book. He's a futurist who wrote a lot of he wrote a predictive book back in the 70s that proved out to be really, really accurate in the following 40 years. And so that he wrote another one in 2005 called The Singularity is Near, and talking about the onset of artificial intelligence and how pervasive it's going to be in our lives. So highly recommend people take a peek at that. He not always right about everything, but one of these people that understands the directionality of technology and
Sure.
where it hits home and what implications that'll have, and thinks about it very deeply and writes about it. And yeah, so take a peek at that if you want to peek around the corner. But Grok 3 dropped, and it's pretty awesome. Like, I stopped using Chat GPT. I'm all into Grok 3 now.
Really?
And yeah, I think it's going to swing. I think you're going to have moments where like different models are going to have the advantage, and I think Grok has the advantage right now. Elon's saying they're not going to give that advantage up. Like, I don't know if that's real or not, but like that's their intention. Is like that's the last time they won't have the most advanced AI.
I tell you, so it's funny. I'm seeing you met Kaiser, right?
Yeah,
From Answer. Yeah. So I'm going to
yeah.
see him tomorrow. I'm speaking at Babson tomorrow. And although I don't think this is the main thing of his company, he built it like on a whim. His interface that he built for Answer, where you can toggle between all the GPTs for one monthly subscription, that thing is fire. I use that all the time.
Yeah, I think ultimately, like, that's that's a great way of doing it. It's just like there's so much efficiency there, taking the best from each of the models and having access to it all in one unified. I wish he would make something like that for video chat. To be honest,
I
these
know.
video conferencing softwares are driving me nuts. And if
He
somebody could,
launched his AI agents last week, by the way. He got his first client already. Babson University is going to be his first beta client on it. The AI agents he's building are pretty unbelievable.
the AI agents they're gonna change the world.
And the funny thing is, Rob, he's coding all this like while he's still a second-year MBA student at Babson.
Coding's never been easier.
It's
Coding's never been
unbelievable.
better, Steve. Like,
I go, he showed me the latest AI agent. I go, when did you do this? He's like, last weekend. I'm like,
holy
that's
smokes. That's so
he's
cool.
incredibly smart, but I'm like, this is insane that you could just create product this quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about, though, is like this idea that technology is not going to be your moat. It's going to be your brand. It's going to be your audience. It's going to be how people feel when they're interacting with your company. That's going to be the moat. It's not going to be some widget or some dashboard or some UX that nobody else has figured out how to do it as well as you. That
Right.
the days of that being the thing and like people not being able to build stuff because it's too expensive or too difficult, those days are behind us. And like, look into that. Like, if you're thinking about building a company, you got to be thinking about what's in front of you, not what's behind you.
That's the perfect way to end it. All right. So
Oof.
1 minute over. Not bad at all.
Did we really?
That's awesome. Very tight. Very
We're
tight.
getting so good, Steve.
That's it. That's it. It's because you're conditioning now with the hair, and you got the blazer game going. You've taken your
Okay.
game up in so many levels.
So my wife did a little tutorial with me yesterday about actually how to blow dry my hair, and it didn't turn out well because she was going for something I don't know
Did
what
you
she was
look
going for.
at Dana
But
Ross?
oh no, I didn't take any pictures. But yo, I should have taken some pictures because it was wild.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but I was like, okay, there are a couple tips and tricks I could pick up from how she was doing it, not the way it
We should
ended
have
up. But
opened the pod with my wife gave me a blow drying class.
she did. She
A
literally was like, sit
tutorial on
down.
how to blow
Here's how,
dry.
you're doing it wrong. Here's how you do it. I was like,
You're
okay,
doing it.
well,
By the way, any topic, and so I've been married 29 years, you've been married a while. Any topic in the world, whether it's blow drying, grocery shopping, pick one. Insert my wife with, you're doing it wrong.
just yes.
You're just doing it wrong.
Default setting, you're doing it wrong. Got it.
Default setting is you're doing it wrong.
Default, like I'm okay with that. Like I don't give a crap about being right. I care about getting it right. So I was like, okay, well I've
Oh,
been fiddling with this. So I was like, if you want to give me some tips and tricks on how to make my hair look better, like I'm not going to stop you. And so she did it. I was like, okay, that's not right, but I can see where what you're doing is way better than what I was doing. And if you were, you know, if I was, let me just try it. And I tried it, and I think like I'm having a great hair day.
you are having a great hair day. So we will end on that note. So thanks to everybody that joined this week of Vibes and Ventures podcast. This is my buddy, Rob Hughes. I'm Steve Walsh. We will see everybody next week, 1 p.m. Eastern time, here live on Entra. Thanks for joining us. Cool. Recording stop.